Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of my podcast. In case this is your first time tuning in, this is the B Channel podcast where my objective is to bless, edify, and encourage others to live their best lives. Now, before we get into today's episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and or follow and share with a friend if this episode blessed you. And please, if you're on Google or Spotify, leave us a review and a rating so that more people can learn about this podcast. And please follow me at B Channel 27 on all social media platforms. I appreciate it so much. Now, I have to say that I want to give a trigger warning if anybody has suffered from domestic violence, narcissism, depression, or PTSD of any kind. That's what we're going to be talking about in this episode. So be aware of that if you're going to listen any further. Now, just to share a little bit with y'all about today's guest, his name is AJ Jones, and we met up on the Wisdom app, which is a wonderful place to network and meet a lot of people that are like-minded individuals. And we've had some great conversations over on that app. But let's get into Mr. AJ's resume. Let's run this thing on down for y'all. He is a U.S. Army veteran, HBCU alum of Jackson State University and Langston University, former HBCU athlete and coach, recruiter/scout, high school coach, member of Black Football Coaches Association, saxophonist/producer, podcast host of the Chocolate Life podcast and the 10/7 live show, poet, author, freelance writer, and journalist, mental health advocate, Black human rights advocate, Black history advocate, and reparations advocate. So that's just a little about him before we get into the show. So if you're ready, we are about to get started. You do not want to miss this conversation. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Amber here at the B Channel. Now, normally I'm riding solo, but I got some great feedback on part 1 of these Christian dating streets. So I decided to team up with a friend, Mr. AJ Jones. So without further ado, tell the people about yourself, bro. How did we meet?
Hey, what's up? We met on the Wisdom app, sharing like good content, like good information between, and man, I think we was on for a cool minute too.
Yes, it was like 2 hours, like both times it was like 2 hours.
Yeah. And then I went and checked your podcast, and the one that popped up I saw was the Christian dating streets. I'm like, oh snap, let me check this out. And I checked it out. I was like, when you doing one of those again?
Yes, I love to talk about it. Love to have them type of conversations. I love to watch them type of conversations. So it's always fun for me,
Yeah. Man, where do I start? Yeah. Okay. Okay. We're gonna start with the domestic violence against men. Can we start there?
I was thinking we would start at the very beginning. We can get into that a little bit later, but let's get into the nitty gritty. Who taught you about dating?
Okay, so actually, my god brother Antoine, he was a minister at my church, and he grew up. He's originally from Chicago. He's a pastor out in the suburbs of Chicago right now, So at the time, I was I was struggling. Like I didn't want part of it. I was very, very sheltered.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know nothing. I was very naive. Um, and I was really, really, really shy.
Mm-hmm.
And even with dealing with all of that, like it was almost like once I slowly started to come up out of my shell, like I would just get nervous and freeze up. And so females was looking at me like, is this dude retarded or something? Like I was getting them looks like I was special or something. And
Oh man,
so
I've
like
been trying.
yeah. And so I was really like legit trying. And so I remember there was like this youth choir concert at my church. This church
Mm-hmm.
from St. Louis came down and their youth choir was deep. It was like 50 of them.
Oh wow.
And just so happens my godbrother knew a young lady that was my age and she was a minister my age. And the
Oh.
fact that she was a minister scared me because normally when you're a teen and you hear minister, you thinking somebody in their 20s, 30s, or 40s. But to hear somebody your age is a minister, like it kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it scared me and it kind of intimidated me. So like when he introduced us, I was like, I couldn't. And then on top of that, she's a very, very nice looking young lady. So like, I couldn't talk. Like, I couldn't even put words together. So I, I
You was
was,
tongue tied.
yeah. And so, and there's even some backstory to this. So like, so my god brother's like, oh yeah, he's a young musician here. He's been playing saxophone this long, da 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 da. And she was like, oh okay. She was like, I saw you and I heard. She was like, you nice, you nice. And so we slowly started talking, and then like every couple weeks, I'll get permission to make a long distance phone call. Like I said, she lived in St.
Oh
Louis. I'm in
wow.
Tennessee, and so like that's how it was happening. And then over time, I guess, with her being up there and me being down here, you know, life started happening, and we both in high school. So I'm an athlete and musician, and I'm in TV broadcasting in high school. So like, I'm super busy. And then on top of that, I lived in the hood, so it was always crazy stuff going on in the neighborhood. So like, I'm playing football, I'm playing basketball, AAU ball, um, like and then I'm active in two community choirs, and so like all of this is going on. And so my god brother was like, he just set me down. He was like, just calm down with you. He was like, if you like a young lady, in the church, just calm down, let her know how you feel, and then go from there.
Aw.
So let's put a pin in that right there. So the backstory leading up to that youth choir concert. So we had just had a youth lock in maybe 2 weeks before that.
Hmm.
And at this lock in, young ladies that was in my church's youth group was calling us guys who are in the same youth group soft and weak.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that I like when I tell you that affected me, like I'm like, dang, like I'm not worth nothing. Like I'm just soft and weak. And these very same young ladies was dating dudes that didn't they either didn't go to church or they was on some other stuff. And a lot of these young ladies had the misfortune of, you know, they ended up getting pregnant out of wedlock, or they were involved with guys who put hands on them,
Mm.
or just a lot of that different stuff. And I'm like, I'm like 16, 17 years old, and this is what I'm hearing. This is what's being thrown at me. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I'm just really trying to navigate what's really going. I'm like, I'm like, my homegirl just said I was weak and soft because I'm a church, basically because I'm a church boy. I'm weak and soft.
Wow.
And then in my mind, here's what she was saying on the back end. I'm like, okay, your dad came from the church.
Right.
Your
So
uncle
how does
from
that
the
tie
church.
into that, right?
Yeah, and
And that swayed everything in terms of how you it skewed how you viewed them, didn't it? Like women as a whole
I'm not
people group in that demographic where you were living, right?
right, and I'm not saying it's skewed, but it kind of messed with me on how I was perceived because I was a guy in the church.
Right. And that could have definitely has some implications. So,
Yeah.
let's segue into what do you look for in a mate? What are your non-negotiables?
Oh man, non-negotiables. All right, so I'm actually in a relationship right now, and
Gotcha.
uh it was crazy how it even started. So like first she got to have a relationship with God. That's off rip.
Hmm. I
That's
hear you
off
loud
rip.
and clear.
She got to have a relationship with God, and she has to have a spirit of peace within herself,
Hmm.
and she has to be a peaceful spirit. With her
Right.
being a peaceful spirit, if I'm a peaceful person and she got a peaceful spirit, that means we can have peaceful conversations.
Right.
That means we can be in agreement. Her spirit good, my spirit good. Hey, the spirit gonna be good.
Right.
Simple math. 1 + 1 is 2.
I hear that.
And you know, as I got old, as I got older, even from going from my 20s to my 30s, you know, there were different things
Hmm.
uh, that I thought were important non-negotiables, but it was almost like they were kind of cosmetic. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
almost like bonuses.
Right. So, like certain things are like icing on a cake, and certain things is like that's foundational.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. And so, like, I'm looking at the relationship with God, how they are as people, how they understand people, how they, if they have rough interactions with people just because you know they having a bad day, just something simple, and just how they treat. For instance, you go out to eat and she just talking crazy to the waiter and stuff like
Mm.
that. That's a no go. Like, I've actually left in the middle of dates because a young lady was going off on the waiter over something she had no control over.
Oh wow, that says a lot
Yeah,
about people though, because that's what my friend was talking about in the part one. She was saying um that the way that people treat people that can do nothing for them says a lot about them.
right. Absolutely right. And it's just a whole, and then like another thing that I kind of look for is how understanding a person is.
Right, that
Y-
level of empathy.
yes,
Hmm.
yes, because because people come from different backgrounds. You like when you're meeting a person and you're trying to get to know a person, like you are you're sharing pieces of yourself with this person, getting to know them, and this person is sharing with you. And if they see that you understand them and where they're coming from, and you see how different things happen, how they think, and how they understand things, and vice versa, oh, that's you can rock with that till the wheels fall off. But if why you don't do this way? Like
Right.
you're showing you're showing you're showing you pieces of yourself, and then this person's with them seeing what you're showing them, their only thing is, okay, I only see this way. Why don't you do it this way?
Right. Instead of like being open minded to different perspectives or, you know, being readily adaptable.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
crucial.
and then sometimes you just happen to run into people that you just can't have conversation with at all. And I don't like to use the word ratchet, but I've come across a lot of them, and they kind of scare me a little bit because of how they are as people. I'm not
Right.
trying to be that like, I'm like, what's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's like it's very important to be able to have a conversation and for, you know, the person that you're with to be able to articulate how they're feeling and like
Absolutely.
all that kind of stuff matters, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's just like I'm just sitting and I'm just like I like there have been several situations where I'm trying to get to know this person. They just, oh, did you see the last episode of Basketball Wives? I'm like, I don't watch that show. Why you don't watch that show? It's not entertaining to me, and it kind of makes black women look bad in a way.
Right. So it's a point of um like self-worth, you know.
Yeah,
So it's like you as someone who I've seen on your page, it says you're activist, you're somebody who wants to show us and wants us to be conveyed in the best light possible. So if you're
absolutely.
watching it, you're contributing to that they downgrading of us, you know. So
And I remember a friend of mine. Me and this homegirl been friends for a better part of a decade, and
mhm.
she asked me how come, like, we talk about TV shows and movies and stuff all the time, and she literally, I don't want to say she called me out, but she was like, I've never heard you talk about shows like Basketball Wives, Real Love and Hip Hop and stuff. I'm like, I can't watch them shows. Like, I saw one
Right.
episode and I was just like, I can't do
Everybody
it.
has their preferences. So
Yeah.
speaking of preferences, when you were dating, did you ever consider like age range? Did it matter if somebody was younger or older? Did that factor into your dating habits?
Okay, so I am 42.
Mhm.
I would think I was probably maybe when I turned 30,
Mhm.
I made the decision to not date anybody younger than 25. And as I got older, it kind of changed. When I
Right.
got 35,
Mhm.
when I turned 35, okay, I wasn't going to date anybody younger than 30, but I would make the adjustment if that person had a certain level of maturity.
Right. That's
And
the caveat.
yeah, and even with me being 42, like low as I'm going is 30. And if I and let's just low like okay, right now I have a beautiful 38-year-old woman in my life, but
Mhm.
let's just say hypothetically speaking, if I were single, the lowest I will go is 30, but if a mature 28-year-old fit all the criteria, 28
You're not
is
gonna
where
write
it's at.
her off.
Right. But I I think the oldest okay, I think the oldest person I ever dated was 43, and
Oh.
I was in my late 30s or mid to late 30s. I was probably like 37,
Mm-hmm.
38, and she was 43.
Did you notice any differences between dating somebody younger than you and older than you?
Um, yes, the only difference was if she called me and left a message
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't respond within, I'll say 30 minutes to an hour, she
Mm-hmm.
would go into a panic mode and then she'd be, who are you
A
talking
younger
to?
person?
No, this was, she, she would assume that it's somebody, are you talking to somebody? I'm like, no, like, at the time I was working part time as a football. I was working for a football recruiting service, part time, and my main job. I was working as a high school football coach, and so I'd be out on the road on recruiting trips, and sometimes you got to evaluate anywhere like certain like if you at certain high schools, and let's just say this high school's nationally ranked and they got like 10, 12 players, and then that team is playing a team that's very, very equal to them. So this game is probably on ESPN. I'm probably evaluating good solid 30 players at this game, and I got to get stuff from their coaches and all of that. The game started at 7. If after the game is over, I probably won't leave the stadium after talking with the coaches till almost 11 o'clock.
Yeah, so that is really something to consider, like when you're dating people. I realized as I've gotten older that that's a level of insecurity when you can't give that person like that little bit of leeway, that
Yeah,
room, because you don't know what could have happened. They could have ran into traffic. They could have fell asleep. Anything could have happened. Yes, um, I do like to show concern and be like, okay, are you home? But I'm not gonna be like,
yeah,
where are you? All that like that's a lot. That seemed too much for me. So.
yeah. And so it was that it was just seemed like if it was this. I remember one time she just went out. She went out, and so she had like I think her son was like 23, 24.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, was her? Yeah, I think her son was like 23. Yeah, her son was like 23. So
Oh.
she went. So I think like one of the last conversations we had, you know, I was on my way back home, and like at the time I'm living in Oklahoma City. So
Mhm.
from Dallas to Oklahoma City is 3 hours.
Mhm.
The game was it was a game I was doing. The game was it was off week for my football for my team. So I told the coach, hey, I'm still my part time gig got me going down to Dallas. I'll see y'all Saturday afternoon for film session. So I went down to the game, and I'm coming back, and she was like, I called you 4 times. Da, 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 da. I was like, I was at a game, and I was doing recruiting stuff. And she was like, well, you could have called. I'm like, I couldn't right then.
Because it's like you have to know who you're dating, and if they have that hectic travel schedule, you know, like you can't expect them to get right back to you because they're in the midst of traveling, and it probably would be a safety concern if they're trying to
Yeah,
call you and you don't know. So it's like, come on now, you gotta give a little bit of space. Like if you knew who you were dating when you got with that person, right? So
yeah.
you have to give a little bit of latitude for that.
I told her, hey, you're you're amazing lady, but like I can't do this. Like this is beginning to get a little bit much. And I want to say it was probably like maybe 2, 3 months later, she hit me up and just apologized.
Mm.
Yeah, she hit me up and apologized and whatever. And I was like, I was like, oh, we good, we good, we good. And then she kind of explained, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So the backstory behind that, uh, this particular young lady, her first husband was an NFL player.
Oh,
He
so there was
played,
some projection going on.
yeah. So he played around on the road. Matter of fact, you're from Philly.
Right.
Darnell Dockett,
I've never
Florida
heard
State.
of him.
Okay, so he was a starting D lineman for the Eagles for a cool minute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he played around on her,
Mm-hmm.
and they got divorced, and that was kind of the projection. And so she apologized for that, and I was like, I had no idea. Like, I knew she was married to an NFL player. I just didn't know who. But when she said his name, I was like, oh snap. Okay, all right, that's what's up.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where like your past, they say it's what do they say? Your past is prologue. So if she's been through that, maybe that's something that people need to discuss. Like, yo, this is a trigger for me. I've been through XYZ. So be
And,
considerate of this. But if you don't say that and then you just snap in and the person doesn't know why, that causes problems.
yeah, and I'm glad that was something that we never. That was something that we never discussed. But it was like once she apologized for that, then it was like, okay. And I was like, and I asked her, I was like, okay, so how long did that go on? And
Hmm.
she was like, pretty much the whole time, they were married, even after she had, you know, her son, it was still going on. And then once she just said it was enough, like, then she finally just left him alone and,
Right.
got divorced and just left him alone altogether. But, yeah, like the older, like, she was the oldest person that I dated, and she was 43 at the time.
Hmm. So that brings me to the next question. Have you ever considered dating outside of your race?
Absolutely not. Every young lady that I've dated is of they have they are of the melanated diaspora, whether they are from South America, the continent, uh, Oceania, which is Indonesia, Malaysia,
Hmm.
um, you know,
So all people of color, basically.
yes. Um, like, and then like grow and so like the area where I grew up, or the area where I reside currently, is
Hmm.
a military town. And
Right.
so I've seen a lot of, matter of fact, there was a young lady I went to high school with. She dated a soldier that went to my church.
Mm.
And I remember he was getting ready to deploy to Kosovo,
Mm.
and she was tripping. Okay, so right before you deploy, you do your will and make sure your insurance and your finances on the military side to your family are all in order. And so one of the things that he was taking care of was the insurance. So
Oh,
this dude, he actually sold insurance before he joined the military. He
oh
actually
wow.
graduated high school a year early and all that. But he's from where is he from? He's from like he's from New York. He's from New York. I'm trying to think of the area. Uh, he's from Rockaway area, New York City. Rough Rockaway.
Mm.
So like he graduated high school a year early, got into selling insurance, did really well with that, put his money away, then he joined the military. So what the conflict was, he didn't put so he ended up my class he ended up marrying my classmate. All
Mhm.
right. So what happens is he didn't put her name on his military life insurance. But she didn't know that he had a whole nother insurance policy that was double the military life insurance. So she was tripping because he only put his, and the unique thing about his family, it was just him and his mom and his grandma that was alive. That was it. It's just him, his mom, and his grandma. So his mom was on that life insurance, his military life insurance policy. Now, she was on the other one, but she was tripping off of the military so hard, he didn't even get to tell her about it. So when he deployed, she emptied out like the bank account for the most part, but she left like $10K.
Oh my goodness.
This dude had like a good solid 6 figures in there.
Oh my goodness.
And so when he came, I'll never forget, I came home for like fall break because this was like my freshman year of college. I came home for fall break and I seen him, and he was at home on his mid-deployment R&R, and he looked like he was stressed, and he was like, yeah, man, I just served her papers. I'm like, whoa, what happened? He was like, man, she emptied my bank account. She was just doing all kind of crazy stuff, man. And he was like, man, she almost got me thrown out the military before deployment. I'm like, what happened? He was like, every time we talked about the life insurance policy, she, and I said no, she called the police on me and they'll come and get me. And I'm like, yo.
Well, that just showed her intentions and her motives.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking, what is it that makes you say that I'm rocking with, us, for better lack of a term? I'm rocking with, the sisters, the queens for to the rocks, to the wheels fall off, shall we say?
I've seen cats I grew up with, cats in the military. Like, I've seen too many dudes go to jail for stuff that wasn't even, like, simply for disagree. Like, it's almost like, for some crazy reason, when it comes to the woman from the Caucasus Mountains, if you a brother and you tell them no, it leads to repercussions, and that scares me.
Right. So basically what you're saying is we as Black women are a safe space, a safe place to fall apart and land.
For me, yes.
Yeah.
And here's a crazy, and even to say that, like, even in all the relationships that didn't work, and with all the young ladies that have hurt me and all of that, I'm not going nowhere else.
I hear that. And that is definitely your prerogative. Everybody has their preference, and it's a free world, so we get that choice, right?
Yeah.
So I would like to ask you, what is the pettiest reason you wouldn't date somebody?
What is the pettiest reason why I wouldn't date somebody? Okay, this is gonna sound bad. Okay, so when I was working at the high school in Oklahoma City, there was a certain Caucasian teacher that was interested in me, and I wanted no parts. And I remember one day so there was another coworker that I was kind of close with because I knew her mom. I knew her mother before I met her mother before her mother passed, and so we kind of clicked. So we like brother and sister. That's like little sis or whatever. So because me and my other coworker were close, she automatically assumed that we were dating. I'm like, this chick got a whole fiance in Afghanistan. You better chill out.
I'm
And so,
telling you, man, it's
and
something
so,
else.
and so she was just, oh, so what this? She was like, so, you're gonna give her a shot, but I'm like, listen, how many times did I tell you? That's my homegirl. Like, she got a whole man, and she was like, well,
Right. People be assuming stuff all the time. Like that's the thing that I think is really wild these days is that people can't fathom that you would have a platonic relationship with somebody of the opposite sex and it can be
right,
completely that way, you know?
right, and I've always I probably have just as many platonic female friends as guy friends, and I'm an athlete.
Right. Right. So to add on to that, like have you ever encountered somebody who was um like they would get upset because you had female friends?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That domestic violence, that was her. That was her.
All right, we gonna get to that in a little bit,
Yeah, that
but
was her.
I think I want to ask you about. Okay, here we go. Does the one exist?
Listen here. There was a time when it's you just got to be in the right time and right place when God shows that person to you.
Right,
And and God, and he, when I tell you, he shows signals, he leaves signs, and all of that. You just got to be, and a lot of times you really, really, really have to be locked in and be paying attention. Cause
do you believe there's more than one though? Like you know how some people be like, "Oh, that person died. I'm not getting married ever again." Do you believe that it's more than one?
I'm just gonna say God has a way
Mm-hmm.
of pointing you to the right one. Here, ah, okay. I like the examples that you use. Okay, this person died. I never want to date again. God is going, okay, in situations like that, because I know I know a young lady that kind of encountered that in college,
Mm-hmm.
and I bumped into her. Oh gosh, I bumped into her in 2013. She just happened to be in Oklahoma City, and
Mm-hmm.
she is now married. And I asked her similar question to what you asked, and her exact words was, God has a way of bringing back those same feelings from that one through another person.
Right. It's almost like it's a gift, like they're an angel, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you get those same feelings, but not the exact same feelings, but you feel the same amount of like that safety with that person.
yeah. And it's almost like, in a way, God is kind of reminding you of that person through this other person. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
That's beautiful.
And so, like I said, you really, really, really got to be locked in. And I'm just gonna share how I met the young lady in my life. Her name is Effie.
Hmm.
Um,
Shout out to
so,
her.
so literally 5 years ago,
Hmm.
on my birthday, I was on Facebook and a I seen these wedding pictures. She was in a wedding, and it was like a West African wedding. So she was in like this purple and gold outfit. and she was, man, she was gorgeous. And
Oh,
I remember sending her a message on message. I'm like, hey, you look amazing. You look gorgeous. Now,
oh wow, just right off the back like that.
yes.
Wow, that was so bold.
And so I did not know. So check this out. I did not know that she replied to my message. Fast forward 5 years later, I
Mm.
just have now I have a great memory. I never forget a face. When I say I never forget a face, I never forget a face. Matter of fact, let's just say I come to Philly, we meet, we hang out. I don't see you for 20 years and I just randomly see you again. I will not forget your face.
Aw.
So I'm on Facebook one day and I remembered the name and I seen the picture. I'm like, oh snap, that's her. So I go on there and I see a reply to the message. She replied to the message the day after I sent her the message, but this was like 5 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
And then on her message, she says, you seem familiar to me, but I've never been to Oklahoma. Do you believe in spiritual connections?
Ooh, that was
Well,
powerful though, because what led you to go back and check that message at 5 years later? And
that's what I'm
that's deep.
saying. I was locked in.
That's wild to me that it was like still there like all that time.
And so I hit her up and then we start talking back and forth and then we dove into the spiritual connection conversation. And so we get to talking back and forth. I'm like, this woman here's something else.
I hear that, man.
And then we get to talking and then so like a couple days later, some I was just really curious. I'm like, I wasn't trying to be cocky, but I was like, um, have you prayed for me before? She,
Ooh. Wow.
and then she was like,
She was like, I sure did.
no, not really. But then so like later on that day, she hit me up. She was like, she hit me up and we kind of talked. She was like, I think I might have. And then I was like, okay, what have you been praying for, over these last few years? And she was like, oh my God. I'm like, what? And she was like, hold on, I got to go grab this picture right quick. I'm like, why is she talking about pictures? So she comes back. And so we start video chatting on
Hmm.
Messenger. And so she shows me this picture from January. She shows me this picture and she basically was writing a prayer. She wrote a prayer on the back of the picture, and I'm like, oh snap! And so prior to her writing that prayer on the back of that picture, she said she had been praying to God, and God had said, you know, she said her man would be coming soon, and he was going to ask her what she'd been praying about.
Oh my goodness. That's wild. So that leads me to the question that's obvious. What's the number one sign that you would um believe and be led to believe that somebody is your wife?
God is going to tell you to do, he's going, not only is he going to lead you to the person, but he's going to give you certain instructions on how to interact with that person.
Right.
And so, like in getting to know her, I'm like, okay, what have you been praying for? And that got her attention. And that was one of the things that she was told he's going to ask about. He's going to ask me about what I've been praying about. And so we got into a whole nother deep conversation. We was on the phone for like 5 hours.
Woo. I hear that a lot when I watch podcasts and stuff, because I'm big into all that. Like I call myself like a student of love and like the whole psychology of it and everything like that. And that's one of the things that I like to do too. So that brings me to my next question. Do you watch like any dating shows, like any of the black dating shows that's out now?
Whew. Let's just say I end up watching reaction videos to them because it's a lot of stuff that happens on some of the shows. Is some I'm not gonna lie, some of the stuff is good, but there's a lot of stuff that happens on these shows that kind of rub me the wrong way.
I know. Tell me about it, because I'm one of those people that, I guess I won't call myself a hopeless romantic, but I would say I'm a hopeful romantic. So that's what keeps me watching. Like the Ready to Loves, the Put a Ring on It, the One, Queen's Court, all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
And I know for a fact that everybody is not going to necessarily go home together and stay together, and it's been proven, by things that have been coming out, and you see those, like you were saying, like videos about stuff. So I'm like, hey, I don't know if they're gonna last, but the whole journey, that's what's interesting to me. The different types
yeah,
of dates they go on and things like that. So that leads me to the next question. Would you have ever gone on any of those type of shows, or is that not your cup of tea?
listen. I auditioned for the second season of College Hill. That's as close to a dating show I'm gonna get.
And I know why, because we talk about this a lot, the HBCU thing. But my question, I have like a bunch, like kind of like rapid fire in
Okay,
regards to this dating thing. So, would you ever go on a blind date?
I have.
And how did that turn out for you?
You know what? The date wasn't bad, but it was just like, you know, and we knew the person that set up the date,
Mhm.
and she was the crazy part about it. She was like, you're a really, really good guy. She was like, I'm just not in a place to be, she was like, you're a really, really good guy. I'm just not in a place to where I could feel like I could be with somebody right now.
That was so
And
mature.
she was like, if we could just enjoy this date and just hang out, like I'll be cool with that. She was like, if you want to be friends, I'm down with that. I'm like, word, cool. And so we had a real, real, real good time. And so like my homeboy was like, so what you think? I was like, man, I respect her privacy, and like that she not ready, bro. He was like,
Right.
what? He was like, you not. I was like, bro, she not ready.
Yeah, that's another thing. You can't force nobody. If they're not in that space, they're not in that space.
Now, now to her credit, she's one of those people that kind of locks herself in and stays to herself.
Right.
Cause I'm an introvert, but I have
Me
extrovert
too.
tendencies.
Me too. It
She, she
depends on the person you're around, right?
yes, she's an introvert. You know what I'm
Ah,
saying? She's an introvert, and so like when I mean even just her getting out her going on the date was a big step for her,
oof.
and like and when she came and I'm she when I tell you she came with it, she came with it. She was looking she looked amazing. When I say she came with it, she came with it. She was not playing. But I was like, man, like so and I was asking, I'm like, so you would have probably just been at home watching TV. She was like, yeah, she was like, I love movies and I just would have been on one of my streaming sites just watching movies. I'm like,
I hear
okay.
that.
I was like, I can rock with that. I was like, I was like, this is like shortly after Netflix came. I was like, so you got Netflix? She's like, yeah, I got Netflix.
Right? But like I said, well, the next thing is, would you would you date multiple people? You know, like on those shows when they had to like choose like a certain number of people and then they start.
Nah, I can't do it.
So you are completely
I
a
cannot do it.
one woman man,
Yeah,
monogamous all the way.
yeah, cause like I got I I have friends who was players, and it was like once they got, it was like, man, it was like, man, I got tired of lying, man. Like I just need
Yeah,
one
that could
woman.
be
That's it.
exhausting.
I got tired of lying, man. I was like, I told you that in high school, bro.
Like if you would just listen to me, you could have less exhaustion, you know?
Yeah, I just like, and and like I said, my homeboy, I learned what not to do from watching them. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So like, I'm just like, I was the dude that was, I'd be the dude at the lunch table. You know, I'm talking with my friends, but at the same time, I'm like, yo, I'm watching what he doing.
Right.
Yeah, nah, I can't do that. He finna get slapped. Nah, I'm just gonna stick with one. Nah, I'm good.
So how do you feel about living together?
I've never lived with anybody I've dated.
Is that like a hard and fast rule for you, or would you break it for the right person?
Uh, I'm just gonna say this: the week of the wedding, I'm moving in with with the wife to be.
I like that.
Before that, it's not gonna happen.
Right. I get that, because sometimes you get too comfortable and then you just never get to that next step.
hmm
And so
Exactly.
that brings me to the next question. How long would you date somebody before you pop that question?
It's different from person to person.
Right.
Is different from person to person. Like there are certain people, like for some people, like I got a homegirl that met her guy and was married a month later.
Ooh, that was super quick.
They've been, hold up, this is 2023. They've been married 5 years now.
Mm, that is amazing. Because when you know, you know. That's what I've been hearing a lot.
Yeah.
Why
And
wait forever?
it's, and that's the thing. Like, it's like when you know, like, it's almost like, wow. It, like you kind of in shock it's like you kind of in shock at the same time. You're like, yo, like, this is her, bro. Like, this is her. And then even on her end, he is him. That's him right there.
Oh, so this is a book review podcast, for the most part. So I gotta ask you, do you have any favorite books that you've read on the topic of dating and relationships?
um, oh man, I read this book twice. The five love languages.
Ooh, I love that. I
I
have
read
not read
that.
that book, but I get the emails.
I was, and I was in my late 20s the first time I read the book, and I was 30. I was 36. You know what? I've read it 3 times. I
Oh,
was
wow.
29. I read it at 36, and I read it again a little bit after I turned 38.
Wow. Yeah, so for those of y'all who don't know out there, he's talking about the five love languages by Gary Chapman. And it's a very good you know, tool to learn about different things, and he has books on apology languages, appreciation languages in the workplace, and he's adapted it to different demographics as far as the love languages are concerned. But those 5 love languages are quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, and physical touch. And everybody has a different one, and they receive love differently. And a lot of us, we will give love in the way that we want to receive it, and then we don't even think about what they need.
And even with that, there's a very, 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 very small percentage of people who actually, whose love language is literally all of them.
Right. Some people be like, yeah, just give me all of them.
And it's why I'm gonna tell you how I found this out. So, when a matter of fact, my church singles ministry read the book we reread it as a group. I was 29, and then they did a love language test.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I did the test, and I got my thing back, like it was like even across the board, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
goodness. Wow.
okay. And I was like, and then I sat there and thought about myself as I was like, you know what? I can kind of see it now. Because at first I thought, I was like, does this mean I'm a hard person to date or do stuff for? And Miss, I call her Mama King. Her name was Barbara King. She was one of the singles group facilitators. She was like, no, that's not what that means. She was like, it just means like you literally like in order how you are loved, like all of those fit you.
Right. So it's
equally.
actually easier because it can be any of those that you feel loved from. Like,
Yes. And once she broke that down, I was like, man, okay, cool.
right, man. That's really a good one. If you're gonna read any of them, that's a book to read, I guess. But I
Oh,
benefit from them emails, man. I love the examples in the emails.
and there's another book called Love Like You've Never Been Hurt, but I cannot remember the author's name.
Oh, that sounds good.
That means I gotta dig in my book box to find out who the author
Oh,
is.
you have a book box? Do tell. What is this?
I had a lot of books.
Like, do you prefer ebooks or regular books?
I can't choose. It's too many.
I know that's right, man, because, well, for me, I don't like all that real estate they take up, so I prefer to be like, I'm just gonna go with the ebooks.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, then you always
man.
have it, you don't gotta worry about it. It's digital. So
Oh, exactly.
yeah, I think I looked it up. It's by Jenison Franklin. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Love
So you
like you've
talk
never
about
been
Love
hurt.
Like You've Never Been Hurt, Hope, Healing, and the Power of an Open Heart by Jenison Franklin. That's something to really check out. So I'll be adding that to my mini samples.
Man,
Like, full disclosure, I have like 245 samples in my Kindle.
man. I got samples on my Google Books, on my
I used
Kindle,
to read on there, but that got
on
too complicated.
Audible.
I was
Oh,
trying to read too many different places. I was like, we're gonna put everything on Kindle. Yeah, man. We talking about that all day right there. Books. That's a whole nother conversation.
man.
There's so many good ones
And
that's on different topics.
I'm actually writing a quote unquote poetic novel but I'm probably not going to even get deep off into that until like later on next year because I'm working on two books right now.
Right. So that's awesome. And so that means that we could be talking about that on another podcast if you want
Yes.
to come back and have a book
Sis, you
talk.
got it. You got it.
So that leads me to another question. Do you feel pressure from parents, friends, etc. to get married, have kids? Have you ever felt that before?
Not right now, but I'll probably say right around the time my youngest nephew was born,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, so when you gonna get married? And it wasn't necessary, and it wasn't even coming from my parents. It was coming from other relatives, friends, classmates that I went to high school with, and like it was certain female class. Where your wife and kids? I'm like, I'm not married, and I'm not married yet, so I don't have kids yet. So yeah. It-
Yeah, I mean, that's how it should be, right? That's how you want it to be. Everybody out here is doing certain things, but you want it to be where you're in a family unit and y'all married and y'all have a family,
it-
right?
Absolutely. And um, Petty Al, that's my alter ego. Petty Al would come up when certain female classmates that I used to like would be on that where your wife. I'm like, you could have kept yourself and not been divorced with three kids,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, because sometimes people are so quick to get married, to say that they have that title and end up with the wrong person and have to get divorced and end up doing it all by themselves because that wasn't their person.
yeah,
Right.
oh
So
yeah.
take your time. Take your time.
And
Don't let
so
nobody pressure y'all out there. Don't let nobody pressure y'all.
I'm not trying to pressure.
Dude, just can't stop thinking about it.
Soon as you said that, the first thing popped in my head. But like, it just seemed, and it like, even when I was playing ball overseas, like anytime I came home to visit, like, you ain't got no woman on your arm. I'm like, no, I'm just trying to focus on ball and stay out of trouble overseas.
Right, and that's going to be difficult anyway. The further you are from home and you're always traveling, that's not really the time, the season to be settling down with anybody. Because, especially like you alluded to before, people can be insecure when you're on the road. So maybe when you're established and you sitting down, in your life, so to speak, when you're sitting down in your life, you can do that. But not when you just here bopping around, trying to get yourself together.
And like, and I was actually talking to one of my homeboys earlier, and I think I might have answered a question on wisdom that kind of alluded to this. So the whole time I played ball, I played ball overseas for a period of 5 years. In those 5 years, I played ball in three different countries.
Mm.
The last country I played ball in, I played ball in Italy. And
Wow.
ironically, I met a young lady from Nigeria who played basketball in the Italian league.
Oh
And
my.
because there weren't that many black people in the city we were in that weren't athletes,
Mhm.
like, we kind of clicked. We actually met at a restaurant in line,
Wow.
and we ended up becoming really really good friends. Now we didn't date, but like that was my homegirl. Like, when I was going through a slump on the field, she was there for me. When she was going through a shooting slump, I was there for her. We went to the gym and got shots up. Um, After my season was over and her season was over, we went on a trip together with teammates and stuff. I had a bunch of teammates. I had like two or three guys with me. She had like two or three of her teammates. So we all went out and traveled and just had a good time together. And she's married. She's married now. She actually married a guy who also played in an Italian league. I think he played for.
Oh,
I think he played for Roma AC, but out of
wow,
Rome,
that's what's
Italy.
up.
But like like a lot of people was, you not gonna holler at her? I'm like, that's my homegirl, man. Like, you
Right?
know,
People
like,
sleep on the beauty of friendship and just that camaraderie.
yeah, man. And folks just like a lot of folks swore. I was like, oh, that's not your girl. I'm like, no, that's the homegirl. Like that's my friend,
Yeah, you know
man.
something though, like what I'm learning in life is that you
You,
can have people that's like a soulmate. Y'all, everybody sees how close y'all are, but it's different kinds of soulmates. They don't have to be
yes,
just a romantic soulmate. They could be a friend. They could be that family member that you're close to. Maybe you're close to your cousin or whoever. Y'all just kindred spirits. So
yeah,
that's just what that is. It don't have to be anything more than that, you know?
exactly. And so like her name was Makiba Oloyo. She was
Oh, that is cute.
and it was really what got a lot of people's attention. We're the same height. I'm 6'5", she was 6'5". You know.
Oh, so y'all was out here commanding attention when y'all entered the room, so everybody naturally was like, okay, they have to be together.
Man, it was dope. It was dope. Oh, like where did we go when we traveled? We went to um we went to the Canary Islands. That's where we
Oh.
were. We went to the Canary Islands, and folks is just walking around just looking up at us like
They were like marveling because they probably didn't see a lot of people with your stature, you know.
and 'cause she tall, slim, muscular, and I'm tall, built, you know, and folks, it was just crazy, and like go to the movie theater. It was almost like I'll never forget. We were in line to get into movie theater. We were in line,
Mhm.
and it was almost like folks like stepped to the side, and we just walked up.
Yeah,
We
part
got
the
our
Red Sea.
we literally just walked up, got our tickets, and then everybody slid back over and started the line. I'm like, did these
Okay.
folks just let us through?
Okay, favor.
It literally happened like that. And I was
Mhm.
like, man, this is crazy.
So that leads me to the things that you've been wanting to discuss at the top of this episode.
Oh, okay.
So, so you say that domestic violence against you is something that happened. Is like what's that about? You mentioned it
Okay,
earlier about
so
domestic violence.
I was in a relationship with a young lady back. It was right. I don't no, I hadn't turned 29 yet. I was like
Mhm.
28.
Mhm.
So a young lady, a mutual friend of mine introduced me to a young lady that she was cool with,
Mhm.
and everything just seemed to be a little too perfect because this young lady knew who I hung out with. She knew that I went to two HBCUs before I got to this particular school. She knew I was in the military. She knew that I was about to leave to go play ball overseas. Like she
Wow.
knew a lot about me. And so the first couple months of relationship, everything was cool. Like it just seemed a little too perfect. You know how people say if something is too good to be true, it
Question
probably is, and
it.
you should question it.
Mhm.
It was one of those. So like one day I was in my apartment and she was in my room. no, that's what it was. She came to my apartment after she got off work, and I'm watching DVDs, and she went to my room and she took a nap.
Mhm.
So like so I'm watching. I'll never forget. Literally watching The Blind Side.
Mhm.
I'm watching The Blind Side, and I hear my room door open. I'm like, okay, she either gonna come out or she gonna go to the bathroom or whatever. So I'm watching the movie, and all I hear is these little steps running, and pow!
What?
The back of my head is throbbing.
Oh my
She
gosh.
runs back in the room. She runs back in my bedroom and locks the door. I am so heated. I'm like, did this chick just hit me?
And what was that for? And why would you just
That's
lock the door
to
after that?
this to this day, I do not know why she even did that. So I'm so heated. I'm like, yo, you a big black dude in Oklahoma. Let's go for a walk. So I left my apartment and
Mhm.
I'm walking down the street, and I see my dude Rashard that's there across the street from me. He was like, AJ, you good? And I'm like, nah, man, I'm not good. And he ran, caught up with me. Yo, bro, you good? I'm like, nah, man, this chick done hit me in the back of the head, man. And like, I am fuming. I'm white hot.
Mhm.
And so Rashard is like, "Hey, bro, you good?" I'm like, "Nah, man. Like this chick just hit me." He was like, "What did you do?" I'm like, "Bro, I ain't did nothing." I'm like, I'm watching the movie and she just ran up behind me, punched me in the back of the head, man. And so we probably out walking for maybe hour and a half, and he had his basketball with him. So we stopped at the basketball court,
Mhm.
was just talking and just throwing shots up. And so after about an hour and a half, we walk back around the corner. He go to his house, and I go to my apartment. And so I open the door. She not well. First of all, I didn't see her truck in the driveway, and I'm
Mhm.
like, all right, cool. And so no sooner I sit down good and pick up my movie where it left off. Hey, baby, I'm sorry.
What?
I just had a bad day at work. I'm like, but what does that have to do with you hitting me in the back of my freaking head? I was like, did you know hitting somebody in the back of the head is dangerous?
Right.
And then she goes, baby, that was just a little love tap.
A love tap.
I was, I almost cussed when
That
she
is
said
wild.
that.
Was this like an ongoing pattern though, or is this like a one-time thing?
It was a 3-time thing. It happened at 3 random times.
Mm.
But in between that, she played a lot of head games
Mm.
and did a lot of she did a lot of manipulative stuff, and that's going to lead to the other subject of dating narcissists.
Exactly. That's a beautiful segue.
So so the second time she hit me,
Mhm.
um we were out somewhere. Well, oh, that's where we was. We were out at it was at the Oklahoma City Greek picnic,
Mhm.
and so we walking around. She, hey girl, hey Soror, hey, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And just so happens one of her sorors that I went to school with, who
Right.
hadn't seen me in forever, ran up to me and gave me a hug.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna fast forward to when we get back to my apartment.
Mhm.
I didn't drive, she drove. So
Mhm.
we get back to my apartment, and she was like, "So where do you know her from?" I'm like, we went to Langston together. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I've known her
Mhm.
for years. Oh, so you just gonna hug her in front of me?"
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, I was like, I was like, you talk about her? You hugged damn near every Q dog you saw. I didn't
Right.
trip. No, no, no.
So
That's
it's okay
different.
for her, but not for you.
Right.
Double standard.
And so I go into the apartment and I literally lay down on the couch and she goes and use the restroom and I'm about to turn the TV on and I turn the TV on, I sit back down on the couch. She walks up to me and smacks the fire out of me. And then she walks out the door. I'm like, I am
See,
not
I don't like this because how you gonna keep hitting somebody and then run away? Like, at least stay for the aftermath.
you know what I'm saying? You
Man, this is wild, and
like
it's
like
not funny, but it's like the audacity is what's humorous
right.
to me, you
And
know.
the thing and the whole thing and I talk and I told my female cousins growing up, I'm like, hey, don't be getting in your man face. I'm like, you play stupid games, you gonna get some stupid prizes, and some of them prizes gonna hurt.
Right,
Uh,
because people be thinking that they can put their hands on somebody. Women, they think they could do that, and just because they're a woman, the man can't do anything. And yes, we don't condone any violence against anybody, but you can't just put your hands on people and expect nothing to happen, because
I'm
everybody doesn't have
glad
that level of self control.
I'm glad you brought that up. So this young lady knew how I was raised, and
She knew who to mess with.
she knew I wasn't gonna put hands on her.
Right,
She knew how I was, and she used that to her advantage. That was part of her manipulation. She used it to her advantage.
right.
So, she leaves. So, like, So I call her. She didn't want to pick up. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not calling her. I'm not calling her tonight. If she called me, I'm not picking up. So I literally did not pick up the phone for a whole day if I saw her number. Like,
Yo, you know what that brings to mind for me when you were talking about how she knew so much about you? She did her recon. She got her intel ahead of time so she can strategize about how to go about this whole situation. This was a whole strategy.
I'm glad you brought that up. So remember, I told you I was introduced to her by a mutual friend.
Right.
That mutual friend
They only saw
was
that other side of her. They didn't see all that, maybe.
no, no, no. The mutual friend was the one that gave her the info on me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that mutual friend was her road dog. I
So
didn't find out,
basically, she knew this about her and withheld information.
man. And like I just could not believe all that was going on. I'm like, man, this can't be real. Like this is crazy. And so the third time it happened, and this is probably like maybe a month before I actually broke up with her. It was her birthday. We went out to a restaurant. Um, something didn't jive right. I was feeling a little sick, so we was going to this daiquiri spot,
Hmm.
and I don't know what it was. I had to step. I was in there. I don't know what it was. I was like, oh my goodness. So I stepped out, and as I was stepping out, one of her soror was like, "Hey, AJ looks sick. You might want to go check on him." So, I kind of go like off on the side of the building, like away from everybody, and I just, threw up. I was throwing up or whatever.
Right.
So this girl comes outside. I am mid puke, and she punches me in the back of the head. So
Oh
I'm
my goodness.
and like mind you, I'm already bent over from throwing up or whatever, and then she punches me in the back of the head. So now I'm on the ground, almost hit my face, almost face landed almost in it. So I get up and I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you? She was like, you embarrassing me. Can't even hold your liquor. I'm like, I ain't even
That ain't
drunk
even had
nothing.
nothing to do with drinking, probably.
I ain't even drunk nothing at all. Like all I did, only thing I've drunk that evening was some water. That was it. So
Whew. That was exit stage left right there.
I calmed down, and and I have to take responsibility for this relationship because it was too many people that was close to me that told me not to even get in a relationship with her, and
Mm,
I wasn't trying to hear nothing.
my goodness.
I take responsibility for that. I own that. And so
Thank God for good friends that said something though. Yeah.
I remember like later that evening I asked God, I was like, God, I need you to give me a way out. I need a way out of this because like this I was like, something ain't right about this. Like I need a way out.
Mhm.
And God has a funny sense of humor. So about like I would say a week. I would say no, it wasn't like. Well, it was like a couple. It was like a few weeks later.
Mhm.
It was a few weeks later. It's like maybe a week or so after my birthday.
Mhm.
I just happened to be on campus where she worked at. Well at this time. By this time, I'm no longer a student at the school, but I'm very active on campus with other stuff or whatever.
Mhm.
So I just happened to get off of work and something was like, you know what? Let me get some Chick-fil-A. You know, because I got Chick-fil-A on campus. So I went and got me some Chick-fil-A and I'm sitting in the food court and I'm eating.
Ah.
So in the food court, there's like these two rows of there's two rows of booths
Mhm.
and these rows of booths is separated by frosted glass.
Mhm.
So I went to go refill my drink, and just so happens, two of her coworkers are sitting on the other side on the booth. They're sitting on the other side of the glass of the booth I'm in.
Mhm.
And so I'm eating my Chick-fil-A, and I hear my name.
Mm.
And so just so happens, one of the coworkers is a soror of hers, and the other guy, the other coworker, he was in another fraternity, and
Mhm.
I met him at a get together, like probably like a couple months prior.
Mhm.
And so her coworkers like, I'm so sick and tired of this girl talk about her man. Like her man's a good dude. Like I know she was like she was like I knew that dude. I know that dude from somewhere because. She's like, I think I met him in undergrad because he came to a party when I was over at Oklahoma University. You know,
Mhm.
he's like, he came with his teammates and a few of the Sigmas from his campus. You know, he's mad cool. Like, he's a good dude. Like, she was like, I don't, and then she was like, I don't understand how she got him. And the dude started laughing. He was like, yeah, dude, mad cool. Like he cool. What he say? He cooler than the other side of the pillow. Like, man, I just get tired of hearing her just talk bad about him. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and he was like, "Man, if she not careful, he not gonna be there for that too long." And I was like, "You know what?
That is a
I,
sign.
I ate the last of my little 12-piece chicken nuggets and took down them last two waffle fries and drunk my lemonade, and I went back home." And
Mhm.
so the part of the reason why I went back home because I thought she was gonna I thought she might have been at the apartment
Mhm.
because I what ended up happening, she ended up leaving her office early.
Mhm.
So I called her. I'm like, hey, what you doing? She was like, oh, nothing. And I was like, I need to talk to you about something. She was like, what's going on? I was like, have you been talking bad about me to your coworkers? And she was like, who been talking to you? I'm like, no, don't worry about all that. I was like, have you been talking bad about me to your coworkers? And then she goes, baby, do I look like I would do something like that? And I was like, at this point, I wouldn't trust you to cut grass with scissors. And she goes, oh, you funny now. You funny all of a sudden. You a comedian. I was like, no, I'm just saying I don't put nothing past nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yes or no question. Are you talking bad about me to your coworkers? No. All right, goodness. Who in your ear? And I'm like, you worried about the wrong thing. I'm like, all right.
Right.
I was like, if you not, why are you worried about who talking to me?
Just apologize or, own up to it.
And then I was like, how you respond is going to determine if we stay together or not. Oh, nigga got balls all of a sudden. He giving ultimatums. I'm like, oh, so you think this is funny? You think I'm not going to leave you? Boy, you need me in your life. You're nothing without me. Wow. That's how you. I'm like, wow, you really believe this? I was like, I really want to know the answer to this question. I was like, I'm going to ask you one more time. Have you been talking bad about me to your coworkers? No. Why would I be talking bad? I was like, you know what? We're done. Oh, you breaking up with me? Yeah. I told you how you answered was going to determine if we stay together or not. And you have been lying. Who you been talking to? I'm like, don't worry about all that. And so she started cussing me out. So I just hung up the phone or whatever. And I actually, something was like, AJ, turn your phone off for a few minutes. And I turned my phone off exactly for exactly 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was at home, jumped on the Xbox, played a few games, listened to some music, and something on my laptop calendar popped up. I'm like, oh, snap. So I turned my phone back on. As soon as it turned back on good and rebooted and everything, I had 3 of the longest voicemails ever.
Mm.
In all 3 of them voicemails, she was calling me a B. She said she called me. She was calling me. She called me the B word. She said I was gay because I wouldn't sleep with her. She called me she cussed me out, called me everything except my name and a child of God. Like, she went smooth off. She went OFPH off. Like, she was all the way off.
Mm.
And then as I'm listening to the last message, she calls and I pick up. She's like, who the hell do you think you are? And da-da-da-da. I'm like, you know what? You leaving these voicemails, just let me know I made the right decision and just made it a whole lot easier for this to go over. And then she was like, I'm coming over. Like, no, you're not. If you come over here, I'm calling the police.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm sorry you had to go through that, and it's probably a lot of men that go through that, but they don't talk about it. So I
I'm
appreciate you
trying to
sharing it.
tell you, man, listen. And so, like, when I tell you, okay, so going into this narcissistic bit, she played a lot of head games.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of head games with people. Like she was intimidating her own. She would like for some crazy reason, she loved to intimidate other females.
Mhm.
And so, like when my homegirl hugged me at the Greek picnic, and she was like, "Oh, so you just gonna hug her in front of me?" That kind of stuck out in my mind. That moment
You
stuck out in my
bookmarked
mind,
it.
and I was like, "Why in the world did she trip like that?"
Mhm.
And so she would say different, and she would like our. So I had a conference championship ring that I
Mhm.
always wore.
Mhm.
For some crazy reason, she just she had this for she had this fetish about taking my ring. The reason why I call it was an obsession with her just taking my ring. Because I remember I woke up one morning to put it on and I could not find it.
So
And
basically, it was about your accomplishments. That's what it represented. She
and
didn't want you to be higher than her.
I know that now. So check this out. So she calls me and tells me, "Yeah, I took your ring. What kind of man walk around every day, before he leave his house, he put his ring on before he leave the house? What kind of man walks around looking for a ring like that?" I'm like, a man who actually put blood, sweat, and tears and earned a ring?
Basically, she was in the business of degrading you and belittling you because it made her feel higher.
Yeah. And I cannot remember what happened. Oh, I'm gonna tell you what made her give me my ring back. So I
Mhm.
had I had dental surgery,
Mhm.
and after the surgery, the anesthesia wore off, and I just felt all the pain. So I took all of my medications at once. Big mistake. I was only supposed to take two, and I was supposed to take the other one before I went to bed. So me taking all three of those medications at one time, it sped my heart rate up. So with
Mhm.
my heart rate sped up, that means blood was going to pump faster.
Right.
So I had gauze in my mouth, and the blood was flowing so fast that I didn't have time to change the bandages in my mouth. And so it was so much blood flowing in my mouth that I was ingesting my own blood, like me trying to breathe and trying to swallow. Like I'm ingesting a lot of my own blood. So the human body has 8 quarts of blood or something like that.
Mhm.
I bled out 6 3/4 pint. 6 3/4. I either bled out or ingested 6 3/4 pints. I mean, quarter quarts of my own blood. So
Wow.
I am passed out in my homeboy Richard front yard
Oh my
because I was
goodness.
trying to get him to take me to the ER, but I passed out, hit my head on a tree, so my head was gutted open a little bit.
Oh my
Um, I
goodness.
still have a little small scar from that. So when my god brother called her and told her I was in the hospital, she asked him what happened. He's like, he was trying to get back to the ER. He started bleeding from the surgery, and he passed out in Richard's front yard. And so she came. So when she finally came, now he called. Now, mind you, it's like a little bit before noon when I got brought to the ER. It's a little bit before noon.
Mhm.
This chick did not show up to my hospital room till almost 11 p.m.
Oh my goodness. Anything could have happened.
And then when she came, she gon' plop my ring on the little the little thing you serve your food on.
Right.
She gonna plop it down right there. And
Mm.
so my god brother picked my ring up and put it in his pocket because I had told him that she had stolen my ring or whatever. So
Mhm.
he wanted to make sure I got my ring back.
Oh,
So
thank God for good
so
brothers.
yeah, that's my god brother, man. That's my guy. So he stayed with me until they discharged me at like it was like a quarter to 1 in the morning.
Mhm.
And so I hadn't eaten anything. They pretty much just filled me up with fluid and IV and all of that. Like I ate nothing. So he bought a whole he went stopped at Walgreens, picked up my prescription, uh bought me a whole bunch of like he bought me a whole bunch of applesauce and
Right. That's all you can really have.
Chef Boyardee, and
Mhm.
then he goes to the neighborhood Walmart and buys me a gallon of ice cream. He was like, "If you good, you can eat this right."
I know that's right. That's a nice friend. That's a
That's
good friend right there.
that's
Shit,
that's
better than she
that was my
did.
god brother James, man.
Mhm.
And so he was like, "Hey man, he's like, mom is staying up extra. She gonna stay up extra late, just in case you need anything." He's like, "Man, I'm finna go home and go to sleep." I'm like, "All right, bet."
Oh.
So he leaves about 5 minutes after he leaves, she shows up,
Mm.
and when
This is after y'all broke up?
no, this is like before we broke up,
Oh, okay.
and so she comes in and goes, "Where your ring at?"
That's your first priority? After all that just transpired? Not even how you doing? Do you need anything?
She go, "Where your ring at?" I played crazy. I actually had it on. I'm in the
Mm.
bed, mind you, but I had it on.
Mhm.
And so I'm playing crazy at this. I was like, I don't know. I think James got it. Yo,
Mhm.
God, brother James, the one that was at the hospital. I'm like, yeah. Oh, where he live at?
Oh
Uh,
my goodness.
and I'm
What does
like,
that have to
how?
do with you?
And I was like, I can't remember the address right now. I don't know the
I'm too
address.
foggy from the medicine, right?
I'm playing crazy at this point. And so she was like, yeah. It was like, okay, you want to play these games? Your god brother got your ring. And she was like, yeah, I'm gonna tell you what I was doing while you was in the hospital. I was giving your loving away. I'm messing with this dude. I'm messing with that dude.
Whoa.
And I just looked at her, and she was like, boy, I'm just playing.
I
And
don't
then,
believe her.
right,
Because why would you make it a
exactly,
point to say that, especially at that moment in time? Like, your
right.
timing is crazy.
And so, like, and then she just, you know, yeah, such and such. I'm like, yeah, yeah, he tried to holler at me. Da 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 da. I'm like, at this point, I'm just really just hoping my meds kick in so I can just
I
pass
know,
out and
right?
go to sleep.
Because she's kicking you while you down.
And I'm like, man, I was like, why? I'm like, who? And in the back of my, I'm like, who raised her? Like, who does
Mm,
this to people?
that was wild. Like, you worried about a ring, and it's a whole person here. Like,
Yeah.
something.
And so I remember I was like, you know what? I was like, you can go. I was like, you can get out. She's like, what? I was like, get out. She was like,
You was
you
over
must have.
being nice.
And then she was like, you you don't mean that. You just that's just a concussion talking. I was like, I might be high, I might be a little concussed, but I just told you to get out. She was like,
Right.
if you tell me to leave, I'm not coming back. I'm
Okay.
like, all right, I can get to sleep. I was like, yeah, all right, I can get to sleep faster. She grabbed her purse and walked out the door and slammed it.
mm. The
And
funny
soon,
part was she was acting like you was gonna have like some type of feeling about her leaving the way she acted in your presence. Like, come on.
yeah. And so the whole so okay, after the first couple of months of our relationship, like after she hit me the first time, like I don't want you hanging out with the Sigmas from Langston. I'm like, what do they got to do with
Right?
you? Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, what they got to do? And the crazy part about it, like them was like the first people I met when I first came to Oklahoma, even before I even got to Langston.
Mm. Well,
So
maybe she thought if y'all hung out, they would lead you to meet some other girls or something. I don't
uh,
know.
there's a reason behind it. I'm gonna get to that though.
Mhm.
So she didn't want me hanging out with my Sigma friends from Langston. She didn't want me talking to any female Greeks from Langston.
Oh my.
And I'm like, but I was like, the majority of my friends is not athletes. Like,
Right.
I have like a majority of my friends from college, they either Greek athletes or they just my, they're pretty much family if they're not Greek or athlete,
Mhm.
you know.
My
And
goodness.
so, and that's what she was on. And so, like, there's been too many times where me and her would be at the mall, and I would see an old friend from Langston that just happened to be in another sorority. Hey, AJ, how you doing? I'm like, hey, don't you talk to her. I'm like,
Why? That voice, like I could hear her saying it like that. That sounds
and
evil.
and I was like, hey, I'll talk to you later. No, you not. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
In front of the person?
Yes, in front of the person
Oh
and a
my
man.
goodness.
And so I remember one time, one of my Sigma friends, it was his birthday, and I went to his party. I ain't tell her I was going. And he was like, man, we ain't seen you in a minute. Where you? I was like, I ain't been nowhere I live. I was like, I live right up the street. And it was like, man, you don't come by no more. I was like, man, it's a lot of stuff going on, man. I'll tell y'all about it later. I was like, all
Right.
right, you know. And so fast forward to me breaking up with her. A
Mhm.
lot like okay, so like so my friend Paige, who's her who's her soror, she was like, hey AJ, I'm not trying to be in your business or anything, but like she was like, your girl is foul. I'm like, oh, don't worry about that. I just broke up with her. Like I would say within like couple of days, I just broke it up with her. And she was like, yeah, she's been messing around with this dude named Damon. I was like, I know Damon. Yeah, I kind of figured that. Damon kind of been talking slick to me, you know what I'm saying? I kind of checked him, but
Mhm.
yeah, he can have her.
Mhm.
And so she was like, I was like, listen, I was like, I broke up with her 2 days ago. People been coming out of the woodworks telling me what's going on and different stuff. Like, I'm finding out a whole lot of information about this young lady that I did not know. And so the week we got together and started dating,
Mhm.
a friend of mine named Jay Reese had just passed.
Mm.
And I went to go see him in the hospital the last time, and it was just a really like a lot of people thought me and him were brothers because our facial features are very
Mhm.
same and similar, and his dad and mom brought that to my attention. He's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and they were
Mhm.
waiting for his sister to come down before they finally took him off life support. So we were waiting on his sister to come from the airport,
Mhm.
and I went to I I think I was one of the last people in the room before his sister came,
Mhm.
and she went in there before I did,
Mhm.
And I ended up finding out why his fiance and my ex didn't look eye to eye. And
Wow.
I, so basically what happened was on his deathbed, she basically lied to her fiance and said, yeah, me and Jay has been messing around for the last couple of years, and you know, I still can't believe he chose you over me. And I'm like, what in the world?
Wait, so you're the person that you were talking to, your girlfriend said that to the other girl?
Yes,
At that time though?
yes.
Her timing is just sus.
She's a horrible person. And so mind you, I'm gonna fast forward to, couple days after I broke up with her. So people coming forward with all this information. So I end up finding out from my god sister Kai, who was also a Zeta. She was like, yeah, like she was like, your girl was finna get handled. I'm like, that ain't my girl no more. Like, I'm just finding out about this stuff. She was like, so you didn't know what she said in the room? I'm like, no. Like, she wouldn't even let me. I was like, for some crazy reason, when she went in the room to pay her last respects, she would not let me. She wouldn't let me go in there at the same time. I ended up going in after her,
That
and
is
like
so wild.
when I came out the room, that was when I met y'all downstairs, and we was just out there standing around talking before I went home and everything. I was like, I was gonna go to the funeral, but after I saw the look in Jay Reese's fiance's face, like, because I was connected to her at the time, I felt like I
It
could
wasn't
not
a
go to
good
the
look.
funeral. Like,
Right.
yeah, it was not a good look. And so once I explained to Kai what had happened and everything, and then Kai
Mhm.
was like, wait a minute, there's more to this, but I gotta go to work. Hit me up or talk. She was like, do you know Benicia Young? I'm like, yeah, that's the homegirl. I was like, matter of fact, I gotta talk with her anyway in connection with all this. She was like, wait a minute, how's Benicia connected with all? I'm like, I was like, listen, Benicia said she had to talk to me about some stuff, so I'm finna hit her up when I get back to the house. She's like, all right, bet. So I get back to the house, I hit my homegirl Benicia up. Like, Benicia, my bad, her and her homegirl basically they basically turned me against you. I fell for it, my bad. I was like, it's a lot of stuff going on, since I broke up with her. Like, it's a lot of stuff coming out of the woodworks. She's like, all right, cool. What do you know about her pledging Zeta? I'm like, whoa, excuse me, what? She did what? She was like, well, she tried to pledge us. We denied her. Ever since we denied her, she been coming at me and different Zetas. I'm like, okay, that makes a whole lot of sense because she didn't want me hanging around
Oh
any.
my.
She didn't want me hanging around with the Sigmas at Langston. She didn't really say anything about the guys here at UCO, but she did want me hanging around y'all Zetas here at UCO. She was like, "Oh yeah, her mom tried to pledge grad chapter, and we didn't accept her either."
Ooh.
Okay, cool. I was like, so basically,
A generational grudge.
so no, like, yeah, it was kind of like that. So I'm like, so she can't. So basically, she didn't want me around y'all because she didn't get in. She was like, yeah. And so like she was like the only reason why she is in the organization she's in because she got cool with her homegirl, and then her homegirl vouched for her, and that's how she got into her organization. I'm like, wow.
Deep.
I'm like, okay, cool. And so so I told her everything that had happened, and she basically here's how she turned me against my homegirl. She basically said, you know, my homegirl said we slept together, and then she was telling people and blah blah blah, and her homegirl who hooked us up basically was co-signing like I ain't never seen her act like this before. She was just adding extra, being extra, and I'm like, I remember after I kind of cut my homegirl off after they turned me against her, I was like, something's not right. Something's off. I don't know what it is, but something's off. And so
You know
it
what's
was,
deep about that? I just realized it's a connection between that domestic violence piece and the narcissism piece because uh when people are like usually people that abuse people, they try to isolate you. And they
yeah,
also and then with the narcissism it's about them. Everything is about them. It's nothing about you. It's something that they don't like about something. So they want to control it.
yeah, you're exactly right. And so I'm just looking around like, what in the world is going on? Like I can't hang out. I done made these good relationship with all these people, and she telling me, and then it got to the point where I was like, you know what? And I told her, I was like, it got to the point where, you know what? Forget what she talking about. I'm gonna hang out with my guys. If my guys want to have a Super Bowl party and invite me, I'm going.
As you should.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like, once I told Benicia everything that happened, she was like, man, that backstory is something else. And she was like, I don't kick it with, her road dog no more because she flipped on me. I'm like, I can see that now. I
Hmm.
got you. I understand. I see where everything's coming from. And it was just like, and then she was just, and then like there would be random days where like, I guess her son's father would call to check up on her son. And while she on the phone with him, she would like, oh yeah, baby, touch me right there. I'm like, what the
What?
heck? Like I'm literally sitting on the couch watching TV, and she randomly says something like that, and I'm like,
So basically, she trying to make him jealous.
yeah,
While y'all in a whole relationship, so to speak. That's crazy.
and so like I said, when I broke up with her, like folks was coming out, and so one I'll never forget. Like I want to say maybe the week before I broke up with her, there was a huge party. I got a homeboy named Reggie. He's an alpha. So the
Hmm.
alphas and her sorority got together and they partnered for this party on campus.
Hmm.
So Reggie was walking around with a camera at the party, you know what I'm saying? You know, just, showing the festivities or whatever. And he sees something and he tapes it. So it's like 1:30 in the afternoon, like the next day. He's like, "Hey, bro, where you stay at?" I was like, "I stay in Edmond." I was like, "Wow, oh, I'm driving through Edmond right now." I'm like, where you?"
Okay.
He's like, "Hey, man, text me your address." So I texted my address. Within about 6 minutes, he was out front of my apartment complex. And so I go downstairs to meet him. I'm like, "What's going on, man?" He's like, "Yeah, man, what's up?" He's like, "Hey, man, you dating that?" He's like, "You dating such and such?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" It was like, "Okay, so we had that big party last night." I was like, I knew there was a party on campus. I didn't know who was throwing it. I was like, had I known that, I probably would have came through. It's like, "Oh man, you would have got in. You would have got in." I was like, "But check this out though." And he pressed play, and she was all up in the corner with one of my ex college teammates, just all up in the corner with him, just ah.
Oh my. I
And
tell you, man, what's done in the dark comes to the light.
And Reggie was like, "Yeah, I had to show you this, bro, because like,
You got some
that's
good friends.
man, God, when you good to people, God gonna be good to you. You know what I'm saying?"
Yes.
And so Reggie was like, "Man, you my dude, man. I wouldn't finna like let you get disrespected like that." So I'm like, "Good looking out, man." And so to this day, she still doesn't know who told me about the what she did at that party. To this
Wow,
day, she still does not know.
that's wild. So, I wanted to talk about PTSD and major depressive disorder. Did you want to, share what that is with
Yeah.
everybody and how that experience is as far as dating is concerned?
All right. So how it even came about, actually a month before I a month before I actually got into a relationship with that young lady, I
Mhm.
was beat up by the police
Right.
in 2009, February
Mhm.
11, 2009. I was beat up by the police, and I have PTSD from that particular incident. Now, up
Mhm.
until this past January, it was
Mhm.
untreated, and I was just living, and I would have random trigger episodes from
Mhm.
from different things related to that incident.
Mhm.
And so um after I would have a trigger episode, I would have these really, really, really long, prolonged bouts of depressive behavior.
Mhm.
Like, and then like it was all, and it always happens after it always happens after a trigger episode, or if I'm stressed out over something
Mhm.
that's really, really big. That's when it usually happened the most. And so when I was in treatment and I got treated, and I sat and talked with a doctor, and they gave me an eval. My diagnosis was PTSD, major depressive disorder, and general high general anxiety.
Mhm.
And all of those were like correlated. Um, and so like I was just thinking about, okay, when I was in these last couple relationships, did I have trigger episodes? I actually did, but I was usually by myself when I had them.
Mhm.
And so so the young lady that I'm dating now, I was just telling her, "Hey, I have mental health diagnosis. I have PTSD, major depressive disorder. I have high general anxiety. I'm just letting you know up front, I'm not the type to have like violent, you know, any
Right.
violent episodes or anything like that, but I do have episodes that kind of, you know, put me in a sad state.
Right.
I have those from time to time. I don't have them all the time, but I have them from time to time. And sometimes they happen out of nowhere because, sometimes there are different things you don't even know are triggers that will trigger you. And so I
Right.
was very upfront and honest with her about those.
How long did
And
you wait to tell her?
I told her that from the jump because
Oh,
I felt like, you know, I didn't want to have an episode and then,
and her be like, "What's going on?"
yeah. And then here's the killer part about, by trade, she's a mental health nurse.
Oh,
So
look at God.
she got it. She knew what I was dealing with.
Mhm.
And she was like, she was like, "Babe, you're good. You're safe. If you need me to help you with something, just let me know." I'm like, "What?"
That is
I'm,
beautiful.
you know,
Kudos to her.
man, that's that Effie right there.
That's what's up because sometimes it can be difficult, like, me being on the other side of it, I've, gotten to know some people and some people are dealing with depression, some of the people that I know. So it's like I was, dating this guy and it was one of those things where you feel helpless when somebody is going through depression
Yeah.
and you feel like in a panic when you don't hear from that person. But like I was talking to you before on wisdom about it, we have to learn to be patient and not panic and
Mm-hmm.
really have grace because you don't really know and just, give them the space and be like, you know what, if you want to talk, I'm here. If you're not up to it, you're not feeling it, all right. But that's something that comes with time too and
Yeah,
experience.
absolutely. And I was just thinking like in the couple previous relationships before that, like matter of fact, there was a trigger episode that actually scared me. This was like probably 2017. Um,
Mhm.
I was in a grocery store and this particular grocery store had a security guard. This security guard was running around with his weapon up,
Mhm.
and I was getting me some, chunks of chicken, some crackers, some spam or whatever, some ramen noodles or whatever, just some snack stuff.
Mhm.
This dude turned me around. Hey, you seen them kids? And he had his gun up in the air. All I'm seeing is the gun, and I
Goodness.
froze. And when I tell you I froze, I don't know how long I was standing in that I was standing in one spot, like not moving, like frozen. And so when I kind of came to, there was an old black man, this old Hispanic couple, and an old white lady. Son, are you okay? Are you all right? I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
yeah. I set that basket down and walked out the store and went home. And
I don't blame.
this store is probably like a good solid 15, 20 minutes from my house. I went home, locked my doors, closed all the drapes, and I just sat in the dark.
Mm. Because that could have went so many other ways. So I just feel
Yeah,
for you that you had to be in that space and go back to that space because of that situation.
yeah.
Ooh,
Eh,
that's a heavy thing.
oh yeah. And I was just, and so I remember I just so happened I had talked to one of my homegirls. I had been talking back and forth with one of my homegirls from college about different stuff. And I remembered that she worked for a counseling service. And
Mhm.
so I called her and she was like, hey, come through. Don't even worry about how much it costs. I got you.
That is
And
so beautiful.
she had a guy talking to me, and he was actually the first person to tell me that I had PTSD. And at the time, this is like around 2016, 2017, this was that time when mental health, the stigma was like heavy on you. If you said you had PTSD, or if you said you had paranoid schizophrenia or anything, like people automatically had that stigma. Oh, this guy's crazy. And so I was so afraid to even mention that I had it. Like, it
Mm.
was almost like I wouldn't even talk about it.
But if
And
you name it, that's when you get free, right?
right. And so there was a period of about maybe, let me see, that was 2017. I really did not start talking about it openly for almost another year and a half. I can't remember what made me bring it. It was a football player that committed suicide. NFL guy committed suicide. And I was like, you know what? I got all this stuff. I got all this stuff going on. I just need to talk about it. So and I remember talking to my brother like, yo, bro, I really got PTSD from the incident with the police back in '09. And he was like,
Mhm.
"Are you sure?" I was like, "No, I went to a counseling service, and they evaluated me, and they told me that's what I got." And he was like, "Well, what you gonna do?" And at the time, I was like, "Okay, do I go back to that service? I was like, you know what? I'll handle it soon. I'll handle it sooner or later." But like, in between that time, I would have like random trigger episodes off and on, but like they wasn't like all the time, but they would just happen like at random moments or whatever. But
Mhm.
it wasn't until this past January when I had probably the most scary trigger episode ever that made me go seek treatment. And that's when I finally got everything taken care of. And so, like, I'm thinking I'm finna go in there and get treated for PTSD. No, that's when I found out about the MDD and the high anxiety. And it was
Mhm.
all interrelated.
Right.
And like, and then just knowing all of that, you're like, dang. And then, like, it's almost like once you find out all of this stuff, you still got to calm yourself down,
Right. It's a
and
lot of
process
fight
it.
or flight going on when you realize that, right? Your
Yeah,
body is really like, in survival mode. You trying to get it to, you know, thriving and just being calm.
yeah, absolutely. And so it was like, and I remember when I was in treatment, I was like, I asked the question, I was like, how is this going to date? How is this going to affect my dating life? And they were like, well, if you're with the right person and they really love you and understand you, like they'll get it. I'm like, all
Mhm.
right, cool,
Key
bet.
word.
And it's very, very true. Like they'll get it.
Right.
If they really love you, they're gonna love everything about you, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Exactly.
And sometimes with you being honest about that particular, like with me being honest about my mental health and about my PTSD and what happened to me, like the people that love you are going to see beauty in that because you're not afraid of it.
Right. It really changes how they see it based on how you see it.
Yeah,
And they also gives them an opportunity to be more vulnerable with their issues as well.
yeah, absolutely. And so like I was like just to have somebody that actually understands everything, and they have that empathy and that heart for people, and then worked in the field.
That's God
Like
right there. That's
that's
strategic.
yeah. So like God knows exactly what you need. Like
Amen.
you got to be locked in and paying attention to the signs.
So that leads to the next topic, Christ centered dating. Dating as a Christian over 40. How has that been?
um it hasn't been bad.
Mm-hmm.
It really hasn't been bad. It's just it's you kind of have to move around a little bit different because you're not 20.
Right.
You like you really and you really have to like you really have to date with a purpose. Like yeah, I
Hmm.
like this young lady in my life, like she's gonna be in my future for a really really long time. Like
Yes, you
I'm
better
made
speak on it.
I'm that's gonna be permanent. And so like people are not very intentional nowadays. People, what's the phrase now? I'm here for a good time, but not a long time.
Right.
A lot of people have even brought that into the Christian dating space,
Right.
and it's
That
like,
leads
what
me
in the
to
world?
what you were talking about. You were saying this topic of abstinence while
Oh
dating. How does that go? When you're
man,
Christian, how does that work out?
okay, so check this out. So I was in high school.
Mhm.
I'm going back to high school for a minute. Um, I was a virgin till I was 24.
Wow, that was really good. You
I
made it
was
a long time.
I was a virgin till I was 24.
Mhm.
So when I was in high school, we had this festival called Riverfest
Mhm.
on Riverside Drive next to the Cumberland River. Beautiful scene, good music. Everybody's there.
Mhm.
So Clarksville Now magazine was doing an article on different people from every high school. So
Mhm.
just so happens my pastor was one of the organizers. As he was sitting in the meeting, he was like, "Hey, does anybody have any high schoolers from the different high schools that stick out in your membership? Any youth?" And my name came up. And
Ooh.
one of the things that was put out there was, yeah, he's living the abstinent life. He's waiting. He said himself he's gonna wait till marriage. Da 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 da. So
Whoa.
we get to so let's fast forward. We get to the actual River Fest,
Mhm.
and they do like a couple of interviews. It just so happened I was one of the people interviewed,
Mm.
and they get to asking questions about that. So school starts like in another 2 weeks. So just so happens it was a young lady that I've been wanting to talk to the whole summer. I didn't know who she was or didn't meet her until the end of the school year. So new school year, find out she's going to the high school that I was going to. We end up transferring high schools because it was overcrowded, and
Mhm.
so just so happens she's transferred to the same school, and so I bump into her and we're talking and different stuff, and it was almost like females wanted nothing to do with me.
Like you had the plague.
Yeah. And so I remember it was probably like a month or so went by, and I'm like, man, it just seemed like every girl I like, they want nothing to do with me. That It was like, bro, it's not your fault. I'm gonna tell you what it was. He was like, it's the newspaper article and Riverfest. I was like, what do you mean?
Mhm.
He was like, dude, these girls want guys they know what they doing, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, so that's like all they was thinking about, even in high school. That's crazy.
Yeah, and mind you, some of the same and some of the same young ladies that was in my youth group in my church that was calling me church boy and I'm soft and I'm weak because of this and that.
Oh.
Da, 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 da. They was the main ones that was like, no. So
Oh, that leads to the next topic. You were talking about being ridiculed for being a nice guy,
man, yeah.
and how you adjusted to that.
So everybody knows you actually answered a question similar. I was within the last couple of days about the bad boy.
Mhm.
So it got to a point to where like, okay, these young ladies don't want to give me the time of day. You know what? I'm just gonna be myself. I'm just gonna be a student. I'm gonna be an
Mhm.
athlete. I'm gonna be a musician. And all my friends know all my friends, all my ride or dies, they know my day ones, I'm rocking with them. If I
Mhm.
date somebody in high school, if I date somebody, I date somebody. If I don't, I don't. All right, bet. So it was one young lady that I actually expressed my feelings to months ago.
Mhm.
And just out of nowhere, she started being nice all of a sudden. And she was like, "Hey, you want to hang out?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." And she was like, "What you mean you good?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." She was like, "You don't
Mhm.
want to go to the mall with me?" I'm like, "Well, I don't want to go to the mall with you."
Mhm.
And she was like, "AJ, I want to hang out with you." I'm like, "Now you want to hang out with me?" but
Right.
I want to be by myself now.
Right.
And she kind of looked at me and was like, okay, I'll just talk to you later. And the way she said, okay, I'll just talk to you, she said it as if, okay, he gonna want to hang out with me later on.
Right.
That later on never came.
Mhm.
And one of her now I was cool with one of her homegirls, and her homegirl actually talked. She's like, listen, he a good dude. Like, he ain't no pushover. Like, my homegirl Cammy told us, like, he's not a pushover. Like, you just can't. He's somebody you just don't want to play with, because he's gonna march to his own beat of his own drum, and he's not gonna care. He was
Right.
like, don't. She was like, that's one. She was like, that's one guy you just, if you talking about a guy for a friend, she was like, that's one guy you want in your corner.
Aw.
And and then so, like, I remember, like, I'm fast forward to graduation. So graduation, everybody knew I had a bunch of offers for football, bunch of offers for track, offers for, scholarship offers for basketball. I was even offered a couple of English scholarships, at different schools, because I had won poetry contests or whatever.
Mhm.
So literally leading up to graduation, some of these young ladies who I had interest in that didn't want to give me the time of day, they start getting real nice all of a sudden. Hey, AJ, what are you gonna do? Where are you going? I was like, I am bouncing. Where are you gonna go to school? Oh, I'm going to Mississippi for school. Well, what about, you're not gonna go to? So there's a university like downtown, like 10, 15 minutes from the house.
Mhm.
I didn't want to go there. Well, I didn't feel at home there when I visited. I spent so much time on that campus, it was sickening. Whether it was for football, whether it was for basketball, NYSP, football camp, I just never really felt at home there. Now,
Mhm.
I might not, true enough, the universities in the city where I'm from, I just never felt at home there. And
Right.
so this one particular young lady, that's where she was gonna go.
Right.
I'm like, nah, I'm not. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm like, I'm bouncing. Like, I'm going deep in the dirty. I'm going deep in the dirty South. Like, we in the deep South. I'm going deep in the dirty South. Like, I'm the Mississippi mud deep dirty.
Mhm.
And she was like, you gonna go all that? Yes. She was like, that's kind of far. I was like, yeah, it's 6 hours away. Yeah, I'm going that far away.
Mhm.
And she was like, well, I'm gonna miss you. I'm like, wait a minute, hold up, what? You gonna miss me? And I remember me and my boy Dennis Young. We was talking, and he was like, bro, like, it was like, just kick. He was like, man, she bent to the curb, man. He was like, leave her there. She was like, you was interested in her sophomore year. She didn't want to give you the time of day. She done dated all these knuckleheads, and one of them in jail. And he was like, bro, just leave her where she at. I'm like, I am. You
Oh,
know,
so she spun the block, as they say.
yeah.
Came back around like, let me take a second look at him.
And the crazy part about it, it wasn't just her. It was her. Like, the ones that stick out in my mind, it was these five or six particular young ladies, and then of those five or six, two of them graduated a year ahead of me. But our graduating classes were so close, as far as like friends, like we're all close. Like,
Mhm.
it was a lot of people from the previous class at my graduation. And I remember, it was a young lady. that there was a young lady that had heard me play the national anthem at the regional basketball tournament. Came to my track meets. And
Mhm.
so she came to my graduation, gave me a hug, and after, I walked her to her car, and I walked her to her car, and then met back up with my best friend Tyrone, and then met back up with my parents, to see what everybody was gonna do. Like they just standing around looking at me like, who was that? I'm like, that's uh, that's a young lady that, that's this young lady.
They wanted it to be more.
And it was almost like, they were really trying to, who is she? Where do you know? I'm like, I met her a while back. And then the ladies that was on the track, the ladies that was on the track team really was looking at me side eye, because there was quite a few young ladies that I really, really liked, like my freshman year and my sophomore year. Even when I was at the other school, they didn't want nothing to do with me, but all of a sudden, now they curious about who's sitting with me in the stands at the track meet.
Wow. It's like how the tables have turned.
And that used to irk my nerves. And even as I got into college, like it was to the point to where my freshman year, let me tell you about my freshman year. Coming back home for Christmas break, everybody meeting at the mall, or everybody going to Nashville and meeting at the mall in Nashville. So me and my friends, we actually went to the mall here first, and then we went to the mall in Nashville, which is like 30, 45 minutes away. So we in the food court chilling, and it was, oh my goodness, AJ, how you doing? You look so handsome.
Oh
And I'm
my
just looking like,
Where did this come from?
right.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, AJ, we should hang out. You should come over for dinner. I'm like,
Was this in college? Like after you went to college?
yeah, this is like after I came back after this is like Christmas break after my first
Oh,
semester.
oh my goodness.
Everybody at the mall hanging out, chilling, and everything.
I guess it was time. Time that made that different time.
And so I'm like, man, whatever. So I remember me, my boy Julius, and a couple other friends, we was heading to Nashville to go to Opry Mills Mall.
Hmm.
And on our way there, he was like, yeah, such and such asked me about you at work. I'm like, who? And he said, I'm like, man, I ain't trying to hear that. And he was like, bro, like she asked me if you to give me, she asked me to give me, she asked if I could give her your number. And I was
Hmm.
like, did you give it to her? He's like, no, no, no. I told her she had to ask you. I'm like, uh, I was like, I'm probably not gonna see her, so good luck with that. He
Right.
was like, dang, that's kind of. I'm like, dude. I was like, I've been nothing but kind to these young ladies, and all they've done is sun me. I was like, I'm just gonna literally just be myself and not even care. All right, so if they wanna, throw little hints and hey, and that's the adjustment. Like when you're the nice guy, you pretty much just gotta be yourself and run your race with blinders on. Because if you
Yeah.
show them any attention, they're gonna thrive off of it, and then they might use it against you and end up hurting you with it.
Right. Like in those other situations, people took your kindness for weakness, right?
Exactly. And so, matter of fact, I was just telling Effie this the other day. She was like, what? She was like, how would you handle it if an ex came at you and was like, yeah, you gonna do this? I was like, first of all, an ex is not gonna do that because she might get embarrassed for one, and for two, I am a lot more. I was like, I speak my mind more now than I did back in high school. I was just quiet, just
Mhm.
didn't say a whole lot. I was introvert. I was still an introvert with extrovert tendencies, but I was like, this is 42-year-old AJ. They not gonna pull that now. Like this
Yeah, you
stuff
done
they
evolved, honey.
I was like this stuff that they pulling out now, or the stuff they've pulled out since, you know, year 30, year 35. Um, that stuff don't fly with me now. Like I'm gonna say something.
Right. You gotta
Like
go
it
back
is.
to that older version to get that kind of energy.
I was like, it is because of that I have a petty alter ego named Petty Al. Petty Al is going. Petty Al does not spare feelings.
Right, because sometimes people do not spare yours, so you do have to protect your energy, and watch who you have around you and be discerning, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like, and a lot of young ladies that do guys like that. And here's the crazy part about it: there are two. Okay, this is this. I'm saying this is firsthand information from a guy that's been
Mhm.
raised in the church his whole life.
Mhm.
A lot of these young ladies in church swear up and down they want a good guy,
Mhm.
but the guys that's right in front of them that they actually know, what do they do in church? He's soft, he weak, he this, he that. And then they get with this other person. This
Mhm.
person does the exact opposite of the guy that they call it weak and soft and this and that. But when that other guy does them dirty,
And
who
they
does
want to
she end
circle back.
who do they end up running to and crying on their shoulder? The dude they called weak.
Exactly, and expect you to be there with open arms, like here I go.
And I can honestly tell you that's part of the reason why a lot of black males try to put it this way, a lot of black males kind of are staying away from the church now
Mhm.
as far as looking for mates are concerned.
Mhm.
They like it's almost like, okay, if they went to college or went to school, they're like, okay, I'm going to look in this I'm going to look in the school pool over here. This church pool, I'm weak in that pool. I'm going to go in this other pool. Or okay, if they're in the military, okay, I'm going to date military women.
Right.
Or for some crazy reason that I don't know why guys do this, they go to, I'm going to only talk to the females that I met at the club. Wow, that's a crapshoot.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that happens a lot too on our side. Oh, they want the good girl. They say they want the God fearing woman, right? But then when you send them the encouraging scriptures and you try to encourage them and love on them, all of a sudden it's like where's your physical side, where's your sensual side, like they just want that part of you, and then like it's like this doesn't even matter, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And but then but as soon as, like you said, they want to be your friend, they want the benefit of the friendship, but the fact that you have more self-respect and you have that self-discipline and you're trying to live righteously, and that can be frowned upon. But y'all say, "Oh, I want the God-fearing woman. I want a good woman." But the good woman, that real good woman, that Proverb 31 woman, like it says, she's not gonna be out here like that. She's going to
hmm,
carry herself differently, have different energy, but some people don't really want what they say they want, and that's
yep,
the issue.
you are absolutely right. You're
Can't have it
ab-
both ways. Like I can't know the Lord, but be over here acting like you want me to act like. I can't be like just on the the tightrope like that. So that's where I really encounter some issues in that
Oh
regard.
yeah.
And that's another thing. Like people think, oh, because somebody went to church, oh, it's gonna be all hunky dory. But they have issues too. Like there are so many people that don't go to church all the time. But some of them are the kindest people, the most God fearing people you will ever
You
meet.
are absolutely positively right.
Right? Like I could speak for myself. Like, listen, as a caregiver, that's not necessarily an opportunity that I have to go or have those that family, that spiritual family like that at this season of my life. So, like, it's just important that we understand that the church is not the building, it's the people, it's the
Mm-hmm.
community,
Yep.
and stop placing all of these limitations or these expectations on people to be something. Like let judge don't well really don't judge, but you know what I mean. But you got to take into account each person on a person by person basis, and
Yeah.
not lob everybody into one group. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not a monolith. As
No,
Christians,
we
as
are
Black
not.
people, none of it.
Yeah, we are a supreme pizza.
You're gonna get a lot of things. It's gonna be a lot of things.
It's gonna be a lot of things on there. It's gonna be like 8, 9 different cheeses.
Yeah, different flavors, the olives, the mushrooms, the
Right.
sausage. You're gonna get all of it.
Somebody gonna throw some
We even
Philly
know.
cheesesteak on there.
Yes, some fried onions, pepper, ketchup, mushrooms, all of that.
Somebody gonna get creative, gonna cut up some fries and throw them on there.
Oh, I'm pretty sure people have. I ain't never tried it, but that sounds interesting.
But
That's
man,
the
like,
thing. Everybody
yeah,
different. So we gotta, like, as we see each person, you know, take them into consideration as that individual, and not say, oh, everybody from there is this, you know.
yeah, you are absolutely right. But man, folks is just, yeah,
Yeah, it's wild. So, you have any final thoughts? Any questions for me that you would
man.
like to ask?
Final thoughts. Yeah, yeah, if you really really serious about dating in these Christian streets, please have some integrity and discipline about yourself because everybody is not going to be disciplined, and
Exactly.
everybody is not going to have that same integrity. Like some people literally are trying to play games to get something on the back end. And that's a bad way to go.
Yeah,
Like,
in life, period. Like,
yeah,
you gotta move as if you may not get it back. Like, give because you want to give, like, with a cheerful spirit about you. Don't give because you want
absolutely.
to think, oh, what they gonna do for me? What am I gonna get out of it? And just always expect something. Because
Right.
that's where we go wrong a lot of times.
And a lot of people, like, and then, like, you know, you really, like, in these Christian dating streets, spend a lot of time with yourself, getting to know yourself, know what you love, know what you like, know what you don't want, know what you want. Like
That part.
if you spend I was single for 7 years.
Hmm.
Do you know not only just being single, but being single and abstinent during that time?
7 equals completion. So did you feel more whole after that 7 years?
I did. Like I was a lot more confident in myself. I was a lot of sure about myself. Now, granted, we all have days where, if things don't go right, we kind of, get a little down. But like for the most part, like that alone time, that's huge. You know what I'm saying? You nail that alone time down, boy. You
Right.
know,
It's a stigma about being alone. Some people don't know how to do it. They frown upon it
right?
every turn. Like, come on now. You got to be with yourself all your life, so you might as well get used to it
Y-
and love it. And, yes, it's going to be some days where you're like, ugh, but like,
yeah.
I'd rather be alone and happy than to be with somebody and miserable, you know?
Oh, God, I'm glad you said that. And here, and I'm gonna give this information to the ladies. Ladies, I'm giving you two answers to the cheat sheet. Guys want two things: peace and respect.
Exactly.
If you can't give him those two things, even if you really, really like him, he's probably not gonna stay around.
Right, because you don't want chaos. Nobody wants to stay where chaos is. You want
Man,
somebody that's going to add to the peace, not subtract from it. And it even says this biblically that it tells us in the Bible that the man is supposed to be respected, and that he's supposed to love his wife, and we're supposed to
hmm
respect him. Like, if you want to know the
what's
receipts, it
what's that?
talks about that in Ephesians 5.
Ephesians 5:24.
Yeah, somewhere around there, it talks a lot about that.
Yeah,
So, and like that's when I was like, oh, okay. I went and saw that because this guy named David Burris. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was
I've heard
talking
that name
about,
before.
yeah, he that's what he does. His whole thing is about relationships. And he was like, that's what men want. Their respect. Women want to be loved and men want to be respected. So I was like, oh, and then when I saw that it was actually in the Bible, I was like, okay, I got you. That
Yeah,
makes sense because
but
God said it.
yeah, and that's the secret. If you respect that man and give him peace, oh, he's gonna love you to the end of the earth. Not earth, the earth. The earth.
Woo. Yeah, and then that's what he was talking about too. When respect, it's about esteem. It's about welcoming him. It's about that energy. Like, how are you valuing him? Like, so that was
hmm
really deep for me when he was talking about that, because he was like 10. It was some video about 10 things that women should do, or like that good wives do, or something about marriage or relationships or something. But it was about 10 things. And I was like, oh, that's cool. All right, I understand. I get it. And he was on his Dear Future Wifey podcast. That's where I first discovered him. And he was talking about how I think it was him. He was talking about how marriage is not for how it's like it's not fair to be a husband or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. When I really listened to what he was saying, I was like, oh, okay, I got you. That makes sense. Where he was coming from, and it was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it
I
for
hear you. Do you have any special projects or events you want to share with the people?
Okay, so I am actually working on my mental health book, Defeating Thanos, The Trials and Triumphs of a Mental Health Journey. And
Mhm.
I'm also working on a poetry book called Graffiti, Poetry Live and in Living Color. Um, I'm working on those two books. I will have those done by, I'm trying to have them done by the end of the year.
Oh,
So,
okay. That's what's
yeah.
up.
And I do have a book that's done. I'm just trying to find a literary agent so I don't just want to sell books. I want to do speeches. I mean, I
Do the
want to,
whole shebang.
yeah, I want to talk about the book. I want to talk about the subject matter in the poems in the book. I want the book to be in libraries. I don't just want it in, bookstores. I want to be like in libraries. I want English professors to refer to my book. You know,
Ooh, that sounds like I smell a fellowship. Like, That sounds like you could be at a college like HBCU. Go back to your roots and just
Hey,
teach on that thing. Have your own, lecture, guest lecture.
yeah. I mean,
Just put that into the atmosphere for you. Touch and
that's
agree.
hey, hey. Me and Effie was talking about that not too long ago.
Yeah, that's confirmation then, right?
Yeah, there it is.
So we gotta get that ball on the road, and I believe we already touched on some things that Christian singles should know. But is there anything in particular that you want them to hang on to, like as a closing thing, if they don't remember anything else you said?
Oh man, just because you express to a person how you feel about them, don't expect them to give you the response you're looking for. Because
Oof.
God is probably protecting you and keeping you from something from that person. And it took me 30 plus years of living to figure that out. Because
That's a whole word.
I used to take, like, if I expressed myself, like, if I liked the young lady and told her how I felt, and she was
Mhm.
like, ugh, I used to take that personally. Because I used to go back and, like, dang, she must think I'm ugly. Or she probably don't like something about me.
Mm.
No, that's God saying, no, that's not what I got for you.
Exactly. That's all it is. That's not the fit. That's not what I have designed for you. That's not. That doesn't fit into your life story.
Yep.
Yeah.
It,
So
it, it took 30 plus years to get it, but I get it now. Remember that.
you want to drop your socials for the people real quick? I'm gonna put them in the
Yes.
description, but just so people can hear you say it.
Yes. Follow me at Instagram and on Instagram. I got two Instagram pages. I got the Chocolate Life at the Chocolate Life.
Mhm.
Um, Also the 107 at 107 Saxman. That's the same thing with on TikTok and on Twitter. I am and the 107 live show
Mhm.
on Twitter. Also um the Real Coco Life at Twitter,
Mhm.
and dang it. How many socials I got?
I have them all here. Don't you worry. I'm gonna put that down below. But just for the sake of letting people know so they can hear it,
Yeah.
that's why I was saying it. But I thank you so much for agreeing to do this talk and wanting to reach out and do this kind of talk.
No
It was
problem.
enlightening.
No prop. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I had fun. Like the way, like, man, you an excellent interviewer, man. You an excellent
Oh,
interviewer.
I appreciate that.
And then
So,
I love how you had your questions, and then you weaved your questions in with the subjects, and I was like, okay, yeah, all right. Because when we first got, because I think when we first started, I was gonna be like, yeah, let's dive into this, and I was like, and then once I was like, oh, okay, yeah, she got some stuff. She got some stuff. All right, got it, got it, got it.
alrighty then. So that about wraps it up. We're going to check in with y'all next time. Thank y'all for listening.
All right, y'all be easy and be blessed.
Alrighty.
Hey, kings and queens. I hope y'all enjoyed today's episode. I know I really enjoyed this conversation with you, AJ. You brought to light so many things that I don't even know if a lot of men are willing to share and be vulnerable about, if they're even going through this, right? So thank you for being vulnerable enough to share with us and have this conversation and share about your life experiences, and to just let me be a fly on the wall of this thing, and to learn about the fact that some men do go through domestic violence. They go through this stigma because they're nice. This feeling of being excluded because they choose to be abstinent and live the right way. And it's hard out here to do the right thing and to live for God and be a good person. But you're proof positive that you can prevail and you can overcome all of that and live to tell about all of the things that you've gone through. So I commend you for your vulnerability, your strength, and just taking the time out and the energy to have this great conversation with me today. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed that, and his information as far as his socials will be in the description below, so be sure to check him out on all his socials. And I thank y'all for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow, tell a friend, and give us a rating and a review on Google or Spotify so that more people can find out about this podcast. Until next time, peace and blessings, y'all.